you've seen it before. Movie reviews and connections in mind. The month of February features the release of John Wick Chapter 2, an action film starring Keanu Reeves reuniting with a fellow action star, Lawrence Fishburne. I say reuniting because, of course, these two both starred in another great film and the subject of this second Trendsetter review, The Matrix. Now, this review will contain spoilers of The Matrix, of course, as well as certain other films that have been referenced throughout the years regarding The Matrix. There will be a full list in the description below. And if you haven't seen The Matrix yet, or any of the films listed below, and want to wait until you have, stop the video at this point and come back later. Now, The Matrix was released in 1999, stars Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, and Hugo Weaving, among others. And at the time of its release, The Matrix was considered a trendsetter, mainly for a couple of reasons. One of which was its story, but also for its visual effects. It had great action scenes and visual effects that were revolutionary for the time, especially in the way they were pulled off. They were pulled off so well that other films couldn't help but borrow from it, and especially reference it. Now, The Matrix is groundbreaking for a couple different reasons. We'll get to the story part later, which is definitely an important aspect of what makes it a trendsetter. But what most people think about when they think about The Matrix as groundbreaking or as a trendsetter would be its visual effects. Now, two scenes in particular encapsulate the way that The Matrix is groundbreaking. Those scenes would be the lobby shootout scene and the famous bullet time sequence. Now, the first scene I've referenced, the lobby shootout scene, in which Neo and Trinity are breaking into the office building where Morpheus is held, and they end up in a shootout with the security personnel of this hotel. It features a lot of slow motion and shooting effects set to great music, but it goes between slow and regular frame rates back and forth so much, and it uses slow motion to great effect, not gratuitously, but just enough to heighten the emotions of the scene, encapsulate the action of that scene, and all in all, I think it could be said that this scene in particular is an action scene that was really kind of defined the modern action scene in a lot of ways, and with it between its use of slow motion and the music set up along with it. Now, of course, if you want to see a scene that really borrows heavily from the lobby scene, I would just point to this scene from the film Lucy, in which, a couple of security guards get blasted away by this one guy heading into the building with a couple of guns. And it's supposed to look really cool, so that's kind of borrowing from that scene in particular. But the second visual effect, of course, that everyone associates with The Matrix as groundbreaking is the bullet time sequence. Now, there are a couple bullet time sequences, but the most famous one is the one in which Neo is on the roof of the office building, and the agent shoots at him, but the film slows down, and in slow motion, you see the bullets flying by with the shockwaves, and Neo's bending backwards to dodge the bullets. Now, this seemed to be groundbreaking in a lot of ways because, digital computer animation was getting better in this period, and this is something that not a lot of people had seen before. And in the way that films that have kind of copied off this sort of effect from The Matrix, and the ready example might be 2002's Spider-Man, in which Peter Parker discovers his Spidey sense for the first time, and the fight between Peter Parker and Flash ends up with him going back and forth and being able to move super fast, slowing down in order to show us that he can move super fast, and the overall scene is executed in a way in which Peter Parker is able to move at superhuman speed and basically fight this bully. Now, the action scenes of The Matrix are very distinctive from the way that the action often will start in regular frame rate, going at normal speed, and then it will slow down, and oftentimes the camera will spin around and kind of show everyone where everyone is and proceed in slow motion for a time. Then it'll kind of cut right back into the action, slow motion, cut back in, slow motion, cut back in, etc. And this has been referenced in a couple of movies, most notably Shrek, with the scene in Fiona fighting Robin's band of merry men, or referencing bullet time in which more often, such as movies like Without a Paddle. Now, the second part that makes Matrix kind of a groundbreaking movie as a trendsetter would be its story. Now, for those who haven't seen the Matrix and made it past the spoiler intro at first, let me just briefly sum up the story of the Matrix. So the story of the Matrix revolves around Neo, aka Mr. Anderson, a hacker who is stuck in this world that he doesn't know. He basically knows that the world is not quite as it seems, so he goes in search of Morpheus, who knows the story of the Matrix. And later it's revealed that the Matrix is actually a computer-generated world in which the machines who have risen up and conquered humanity are now plugging humans into the Matrix in order to keep their minds occupied while they use the humans' bodies for energy to fuel them. And the whole conflict of the story arises that there's a human resistance led by Morpheus, at least in this film, which is fighting the machines in order to free humanity from the Matrix. And the great thing about the Matrix, of course, is that, as Morpheus puts it, any world that is controlled by a computer, it has a certain amount of rules. And these rules can be bent. And so you can get some great action scenes and humans doing extraordinary things like jumping long distances or able to dodge bullets. Morpheus releases Neo from the Matrix because he believes he is the one. A person prophesied that he would be able to win the war between humans and machines in favor of the humans. Now, if we break down the story of the Matrix into its components, we can see that many elements of the Matrix's storyline have been copied by films that have come since it. First off, the Matrix is a story of a hero who is living in a hidden world that he knows basically nothing about. An outside force comes in to reveal this world, and he's then eventually paired up with a experienced hand in order to help train him in the ways of what his role is going to be. This is very similar to what happened in R.A.P.D., in which Ryan Reynolds' character is brought into this hidden world that he knew essentially nothing about, and he's paired with Jeff Bridges' character. Although, of course, R.A.P.D. is more of a ripoff of the Men in Black, which came out before The Matrix, so yeah, you've seen that before, so it's not necessarily unique. An interesting character development scene is copied in a way, in which this scene where Neo is entering the Matrix again, and he is being taken in by car on the way to see the Oracle, where this scene is essentially becoming a character development moment between Neo and Trinity on his way to becoming what he is going to be the hero-wise. In the car, he's essentially a normal person, whereas when he gets to his destination, he's going to be essentially become a hero, in a sense. Now, this is very similar to a scene in Captain America: The First Avenger, in which Steve Rogers, before he becomes Captain America, is having a character moment with Peggy Carter, and he's on his way to the destination where he's going to be transformed into Captain America. The Matrix also features the story element where the hero's mentor is captured, and the hero is inspired to rescue him, and inspires others to help him rescue his mentor, which is very similar to the plot of the second half of Star Wars Episode 2, in which Anakin Skywalker is inspired to rescue Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Padme essentially helps him out there. Thematically, The Matrix plays on the classic science fiction trope of human versus machines, where machines are seen as an enemy in which views humanity as the problem of the world, in a sense. Hence why the machines rose up and attacked the humans in order for them to serve their needs. This is somewhat similar to the film I, Robot, which is based on a science fiction novel which came much earlier, but still you see that same theme of a machine entity that sees humanity as essentially the problem, and only machines can fix the problem. Now, one of the more exciting plot elements of The Matrix that other films have copied is the way that the film ends is a way of the progression of Neo's transformation of his abilities in throughout the film, peaking out at the end in which he's able to defeat Agent Smith. We see throughout the film that Neo learns the rules of the Matrix, that there are certain things that you can do in the Matrix that you can't do in real life, such as you can dodge bullets, which most people can't do because you can move super fast. Or you can jump really long distances because gravity is not really a big factor. But there are some things that he learns that you cannot theoretically break, such as if you get shot in the Matrix and die, you theoretically die in real life. But because Neo is the One, and he's able to learn that because you can break certain rules in the Matrix, that you can almost even cheat death in the Matrix, and it is so. Because when Agent Smith essentially kills Neo in the end, Neo is able to essentially come back from the dead and break that rule. And by breaking the rule of this established world, he's able to defeat the villain of Agent Smith. Now, this is a plot device that you've seen in other movies. Well, a couple of notable examples from Marvel, for instance, would be Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man. What do we see in those movies? Well, Guardians of the Galaxy, it is established that the power of the Infinity Stone can't be properly contained by anyone, really, without a certain something. We see the Collector's assistant touch the Infinity Stone, and she essentially blows up because she can't contain its power. We assume that will happen in the end when Peter Quill ends up forced to grab a hold of the Infinity Stone, but because he is sharing the power with the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy, he's able to harness that power and defeat Ronan, in essence breaking the rules of the established world. In Ant-Man, we see something similar, in which we learn that the Ant-Man suit and particle abilities can do amazing things by shrinking Ant-Man to the size of an ant, but you shouldn't go subatomic, as we learned from the original Ant-Man's wife being able to go supersonic and becoming lost to him. We assume that's what's going to happen to Ant-Man when he has to shrink down subatomic in order to defeat Yellow Jacket in the finale, but he's able to break those rules and return from the subatomic world, hence breaking the rules of an established universe. Now, if we're going to put all these things together into a sci-fi movie that essentially emulates The Matrix in a lot of ways, that came after The Matrix's release, I would point you towards Michael Bay's 2005 film, The Island. Now, The Island features a population of humans who are essentially grown for the villainous higher authority's purposes of, in this case, organ harvesting or external maternity, and the hero of Ewan McGregor's character figures out that there's something wrong with the world, this world that he's in. He eventually breaks out of this world and learns the truth of the outside world, and then he goes back into that world once he's learned how to defeat this world, and he essentially defeats the enemy, the villain, in this case played by Sean Bean, and frees the population of this community and shows them in a lot of ways. You can compare it to the end quote of Neo, in which he says,
"And then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you."
Yeah, there's a great film that essentially copies a lot of the Matrix's plot points. It even has Ewan McGregor's character and Neo's character are both kind of unique in their respective environments for questioning the world around them. Or, if you wanted a more fun copy of The Matrix, I would point you towards the Lego Movie, actually. If you think about it, it has a lot of similarities. The hero Emmett is a character who is in his own world. He is not aware of any other world beyond his own. but an outside force comes in and breaks that focus, that lens of his, and he eventually goes to different worlds outside of his own to learn about the outside world, and then he comes back into his own world because he has been prophesied that he would be the one to save the world from a devastating enemy. And then he goes back into this world to become the hero that this world needs him to be. And he essentially finds that he is breaking the rules of his old world in order to defeat the enemy. So that's a little more fun copy of The Matrix. There have been several others throughout the years since The Matrix's release that have not been great. But overall, you can kind of see where these films are coming from. The Matrix essentially defined the modern action movie with its great visual effects, combined with a great story, and that's really what a great film is supposed to do. And if you go see John Wick Chapter 2 this month, you may see a lot of influences from The Matrix in there, not just from the fact that Keanu Reeves and Fishburne are coming back to star in an action movie again. Thank you for watching my Trendsetter review of The Matrix. I hope to do a few more of these, since my next film that I intend to see in this coming year would be Logan, and it's not out until March 3rd, I believe. Either see more Trendsetters or other films related to movies that are coming out soon that you've essentially seen before. So, until next time, thank you for watching.